we've seen him everywhere, to be honest. He's like Zebedee, this lad. He bounces around, just so much energy, enthusiasm, and also love for angling. Not just carp fishing, any sorts of fishing as well. You will not fail to be entertained. You've been entertained already by Urban Banx. We've got him live on stage now. It's Alan Blair.
Hello everyone. Hope you're all good. Thanks for coming and listening. Yeah, great honour to be back up here again. Very lucky that I know the lads that run the show, and they ask me every year. So yeah, very privileged to be up here having a chat with you. For those of you that don't know anything about me, I'm just a normal guy that absolutely loves fishing. I'm very blessed that my job is working for Nash Tackle, and I've done that for nearly 10 years now. And it is a dream job. It comes with a lot of hard work, but it sees me travelling all over the world, fishing along the way, and getting involved in product development and the marketing and stuff. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have that job. I've also got a young family, which again I'm very blessed with. 2 beautiful girls and a very understanding partner back at home. Yeah, but really I'm just a normal guy. I've got to work hard and try and juggle having a bit of a social life and getting out there and going fishing. A lot of you will associate me with being a being a carp angler. Yes, I do like carp fishing. I've liked carp fishing from a very young age, but I love catching fish of all different species. And I think from a carp fishing point of view, that benefits me massively. Being able to adapt and chop and change in different situations, whether that's running water or still water, rivers, big reservoirs, and catch these different species. I take a lot of information from that and a lot of different skill sets, and I go and put that back into my own fishing when I'm trying to catch these big carp. So yeah, I love catching all different types of species. One of my favourite forms of angling, and it's quite an underused method nowadays, especially with the boom of commercial fisheries and stuff, is trotting a stick float. There's nothing greater than going out for the day and feeding maggots or hemp into a swim and just trotting a stick float down. And just quickly guys, if any of you have done it or you're considering doing it, the best bit of advice I can give you on it is, if you're fishing a deep piece of river, you know, that's slow and deep, your shot spread down the line, yeah? And you can hold back in that situation. You can hold your rod and you can let it run down, you can stop, that'll kick your maggot hook bait up a little bit, then let it run a little bit further, stop it again, just hold it back, let that hook bait flutter up, and that's going to draw the attention of the roach, the perch, the chub, the dace, etc. that are down there. Conversely, if you're fishing a very fast stretch of river that's running through very, very quickly, there's still going to be a lot of fish there. Grayling, for example, barbel, chub, species that love living in fast running water. In that situation, I fish it very, very different. I never hold back. I let the float run through at the pace of the river. And that means whenever it gets to a point, I'll pay a load of line out, bring the rod right back up here, and then run it down again. And all the time I'm doing this with my rod. When I get to the end, I pay another big bit of line out and I let it run again. And you let that float move at the same pace of the river. It catches me an awful lot of fish. The killer bait, strangely enough, is a red and a white maggot. You'll catch fish on double red or double white or double bronze, but I've found the best combination when you're fishing with a float in that sort of situation is red and white. Big grayling, absolutely love them. Big roach, you know, due to having a young family and a busy job at work, it's very easy to go out and target big roach of an evening. Basically, their feeding time is that last half hour of daylight. That is the optimum time to go and target big roach. And when you've got a full-time job and potentially a young family, it's great to just be able to go out, you know, after putting them down to bed and go and do an hour's roach fishing. It allows me to keep angling. A lot of people in carp fishing, they become obsessed with these big long weekends or week-long sessions, and I frankly speaking haven't got the time to do that. So that's why I spend a lot of time fishing for these other species, because you can catch them in much, much shorter time than going out and fishing long sessions for carp. Quiver tipping, absolutely love it. There's nothing greater than sitting watching the quiver tip bounce and stuff. And again, I use that in a lot of the different forms of species fishing that I'm doing. Big perch. This particular one here was caught using a lure. And again, I've taken an awful lot from the fishing I do and put that back into my own angling. Lure fishing can be anything from using a soft shad to a big plug to a mech spinner, but you're basically trying to simulate a dead fish or an injured fish moving through the water. And what I've noticed over the years from doing a lot of lure fishing is it's all about focus, guys. If you go out predator fishing for perch, zander, pike, etc., and you're not focused on what you're doing, and what I mean by that is if you're not concentrating on how that fish is working in the water, you might catch the odd one, but the moment you put your mind 100% into that dead fish or that lure, and you imagine exactly how it's working through the water, you start catching a lot of fish. And I've taken that into my own fishing, whether I'm floater fishing or targeting carp in any manner of ways. It's all about focus, guys. You've got to stay focused on what you do. Yes, for sure, sometimes people go for the social, they go to watch the sun go down, but if you really want to catch a lot of carp and a lot of all species, stay focused on the task in hand. And lure fishing's taught me a lot about that over the years. Live baiting, this was the last session of the river season for me this year, and I went out with Des Taylor and his pal on a boat on the River Avon, and we were just drifting live baits down the river, and we had a lovely time catching some beautiful zander, just fishing live chub. Again, quite a short session, but we caught some mega fish. Big run in the summer, can't beat it. Big crusions first thing in the morning, or tench, all really, really exciting stuff, and stuff that can be done in quite a short space of time. This is one of my favourite forms of angling at the moment, shallow river stream stalking. I take my sawn off, I put a pair of waders on, I don't even take a landing net with me, and I just wander along the river. Chest waders or fly waders and rolling meat. It's very, very hands-on, guys. Just use some line on your reel, tie a hook on, and just fish cubes of meat or pieces of bread flake on the surface. And you catch an awful lot of fish doing this. And again, I bring all of this stuff back into my carp fishing. It's all about stealth. It's all about being quiet, approaching the water accordingly, and feeling what you're doing, and being very observant of what's going on around you. To give you a couple of examples, last year at the Northern Angling Show, a couple of my pals come over from Austria, and they came up and done a bit of the talk with me. Along the way home, we stopped off and done just that. One rod, piece of lunch and meat, dipped it in some TG Active, and we went down the river and we just rolled the meat along the gravel runs, and all of a sudden the bar will come out, you'll get tap, 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 and then the rod will buckle round. It's so exciting, definitely worth trying it out, guys. And Mikey's a lad that works for us, I took him just before Christmas. He never caught a barwood before, and we went there in the day, and I actually waded out in the river with him, and we stood there, and the barwood were by our feet, we were rolling meat down past them. They were very, very scared, and we didn't manage to catch them. We went back the following evening, and he put in, what he'd learned that morning, and literally first run through, he caught himself his first barbel. Again, they're a great species to catch, and you can do it on carp gear, lads. Your carp rods, your carp tackle, the same hooks, braid, leads, etc. that you're using for your carp fishing can be slightly adapted to catch these species too. I've been over to Florida not long after the show last year, caught some incredible fish, massive shark, enormous sharks, big tarpon. This one here was caught on a live swimmer crab, just drifting out the back of the float, most incredible fight I've ever had. But this was probably the most special fish of the trip. It's a Spanish mackerel, caught it on the fly rod. And again, fly fishing is something that I bring into my carp fishing. I'll often get the fly rod out if I'm floater fishing in the summer. It's a very delicate way of positioning a floating hook bait on the surface, and it's caught me an awful lot of big carp over the years. Sea fishing, in this country, done a bit of shark fishing last year. I don't know if any of you have ever been out on the coast from, maybe Cornwall or Wales or stuff, but our seas are currently riddled with sharks. I didn't believe it myself. It wasn't until I went and done it that I experienced this firsthand. There is a serious number of sharks in our seas at the moment, and tuna. Could you believe it? You can go out at the moment, not at the moment, sort of back end of the autumn up to Christmas, you can go out of places like Land's End, some of the Welsh coast, some of Ireland, and you can be fishing for tuna between 500 and 1,000 pounds, man, in our oceans. Really, really incredible. This particular session we caught some massive shark. Here's me playing one on a very light rod, incredibly light in fact, and yeah, massive fish, man. We only caught 16 that day. The geezer's record on the boat was 65 sharks in a day between four of you. We were shattered just catching 16, so you can imagine, catching 60 or 70 of these things. Try and get trip booked up, guys. It's well worth it. You'll really, really enjoy it. And that takes me up to now. What have I been up to this year? I'm going to quickly talk to you about some of my sessions this year, how I've gone about catching the carp that I have. Before I start that, lads, I've got to point out to you that I'm not some super duper angler that catches every time I go. I have my fair share of blanks. Really, plenty of blanks. That's part and parcel of fishing. They don't call it catching, it's called going fishing. And, I just got to make that clear to you. You might watch these DVDs or read these magazine articles and it's another big fish and another big fish. The reality is not quite as simple as that. And I have to blank just like, some of you guys here today will. It's all part and parcel of it. And especially at this time of the year, guys, it's difficult. December, January, February, March even, they're tricky times. The fish haven't woken up properly yet. So blanking's all part of it. You just try and evaluate each session and take something away from it and learn from it. So right at the start of the year in January, I went down to Wales. I went to a place called the Philly Castle. You might have seen some of it in the press lately. It is like a fairy tale castle, beautiful castle with all the turrets and stuff, with a drawbridge, incredible. And around it, like most castles have, there was a moat, and in the moat there's carp. So we rocked up down there, done a quick overnighter, and done some fishing. It didn't go quite to plan. I arrived in the dark. A lot of my fishing's arriving in the dark, packing up in the dark the next day to go to work. And this session was no different. Got there in the dark. I'm going to show you something now, which is a bit of an edge, guys. It's well worth investing in one. And that is a lamp for foxing. If any of you have done any shooting, you would have used something like this, either mounted on the top of your Land Rover, or you just walk around the field with one of these. They're very, very bright. And they can be used for two purposes. One is to find fish. I've caught a lot of carp using this lamp by wandering around in the dark, shining it in the margins and looking for fish. In the dark you can't find them. It's impossible. You can do one of those. Now this particular session, we rocked up, it was pitch black. The fish were all hiding in the overhangs, in the big snags and stuff, because it's winter. And I knew I needed to get very, very tight to these overhangs to stand a chance of catching. So one of our pals held the lamp, he lit up the area I wanted to cast to, and I made quite a few casts, and eventually we see a bit of bark ricochet, and we were both like, yeah, that's the one. We put another rod out, yeah, sweet, bang on, that's on the money. And I sat there, and the night passed very, very quietly. And I woke up a little bit despondent, hadn't caught anything, and the reason I hadn't caught anything is because I had cast both my rods in a tree. So I went to reel in to make a recast, and yeah, I'd been in the tree all night for both the rods. So quickly I started making some more casts again, and eventually I got bang on the money, and very, very quickly caught two beautiful fish from this amazing Philly Castle. This is one, taken on the drawbridge here. Again, it's well worth checking out, guys. It's probably not the first place you associate with carp fishing, but there's some really good fishing, on offer in Wales. After that, we headed over to a tackle shop day. A lot of my fishing revolves around going into tackle shops on a Saturday, so I'm doing a quick overnight either side of that. This particular one was at Cardiff Angling Centre. Yeah, what a complex, amazing. I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but it's really, really good, lovely fish. And we rocked up and done an open day, caught some amazing fish while I was there. Again, very simple tactics, because it's cold, it's all about, casting around, trying to find where the fish are, single bright citrus hook baits, just locating those fish and casting a sweetie at them, basically, something that they might go, that looks proper tasty, and go over and pop it in their mouth. So yeah, caught some lovely fish while I was there. Great group shot of all the guys that come down and spend the day with us. As well as that, I get over to Europe a lot. This particular shot's taken in Poland at the back end of January. I went over there, the guy said to me, do you want a hotel? I said, absolutely not, I want to go fishing. They said, you're mad, Dees, it's like minus 18 degrees. I said, I want to go fishing. So they took me to a big lake, it was a power station lake, and it doesn't freeze over because there's big warm water plumes, running through it. Sadly, I didn't manage to catch anything, but it was a great experience, I was drifting out in the lake all on my own, it was completely misty, I couldn't see anything, and to me a lot of the time, yeah, I do get annoyed if I blank, I'm not going to lie about it, but sometimes the adventure is pretty cool, man, and this was no exception to that. You can see just how this was one night, and I've got icicles hanging off the skirt of my bivvy. As well as that, I've done a lot of canal fishing. It's this time of the year, or certainly January and February, where I tend to flit around a lot on the canals. The reason being, guys, is they're shallow. Most canals are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 foot deep, and they've got carp in them, and they're quite easy to locate, especially in the winter months, because they're looking for comfort. They're trying to find somewhere to overwinter that's nice, and in many instances that's marinas or anywhere where there's boats. So basically, living on the boats, there's people, and they're cooking their dinner, and they might have radiators on there, and underneath the boat is emitting warmth out, and those fish are naturally drawn to that like a magnet. So I've done quite a few quick sessions down on the canal, caught some lovely fish, over those sessions. Lots of little commons, but once in a while you do get a better one. Again, nice simple tactics, just flicking singles about, chopping the changes until you get one. This is quite an interesting carp. I was with a lad, Matt, shooting a magazine feature, and I positioned 2 rods already. I just had my 3rd rod to put out, and the other 2 casts were quite difficult. This cast was so simple, man. I literally, that speaker, I just had to underarm flick it in between 2 boats. Dead simple cast. I hit the boat with a 2-ounce lead, mate, and it just clanged. It was like hitting a church bell. Dong! And all the people woke up in their boats. I just dropped to the floor, lay down, didn't move, gave it like 10 minutes, until the lights started going off again. I was like, I ain't going to risk recasting that, man. I left it, I caught this lovely little scaly one. River, obviously the river season came to a close in the middle of March. I was desperate to try and get out and catch a couple of river carp before it ended. It didn't work out, man. I did 2 quick overnighters through February. Didn't manage to catch any, but it didn't let it beat me up. I said, I'm going to go and get one, and if I'm struggling fishing on the bottom with bite alarms and technical rigs and stuff, I always think to myself, just go and find them. Go and find them with a sawn off. You can find them, and stick your glasses on, go and track them down and catch them. And that's what I did. I went out with some cubes of meat and bits of pepperami, and I wandered up and down the river, and eventually I managed to catch one. And you can see here, guys, it's not a big river, it's not very deep, 2 foot, 2.5 foot holes, a real deep part. But some of these rivers that a lot of people would ignore, they've got some really incredible fish in them. They're not monsters, you're not likely to catch 30, 40, 50 pounders, but you can catch some really special fish, and that's an example of that. I just wandered along, found this beautiful little fully, rolled a couple of cubes of meat down, let him get a bit of confidence, a little bit of pellet, and eventually he come in and I managed to nab this stunning little fully. We've also, Ollie and I, done a KHV auction winners event on the Church Lake. Last year, Kevin Nash decided he was going to really put something back into the sport, and we tried to raise £20,000 to donate towards this KHV research programme. And we got very, very close to it, and one of the prizes was a 3-day session with Ollie and I on the church. 4 lucky winners paid a load of money to come fishing with us, and we went, we bent over backwards, we did everything we could to try and get these lads a carp, and it was a great sort of 2.5 days, and they all managed to catch and fish in the end. Most of them had PBs, nearly all of them had PBs. It was great. This was the killer combo. Simple, very basic rigs, little hooks, baits very, very tight to the shank, and they're dipped in a special thing called sweet corn extract. It's got a lot of scopex in it, but it is basically purified sweet corn. It's incredibly sweet, and certainly in the sort of winter and spring months, it really comes into its own, and great for soaking your plastics in, for example. This was the biggest fish of the trip. Here's John with a 40-pound common. Like I said, everyone was absolutely made up. We bent over backwards to try and teach them everything we could in that 2.5 day period. As well as that, I've been out filming a lot. It's part of my job and stuff, and this particular session here I was out with Carl Smith. We'd not really gone out to do any fishing, but this was part of a 4-fish hit in literally just a couple of hours. Again, that hunting approach, moving around the lake, lots and lots and lots, just looking for opportunities and flicking single hook baits or a few freebies around. And yeah, caught some very, very nice early season carp. That's some of my year up until now, guys. Have a quick chat about Banx, because that's probably what I'm best known for. Yes, last year, after seeing you guys, we went and finished off Wales. We went down to the wharf again, done a nice piece down there. It wasn't very kind to me, but sometimes fishing isn't. I had to work very hard for the few bites I had. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Welsh people were lovely, and I hope to one day get back down there and actually do some floating fishing and stuff. As well as that, we went to London with young Alfie and filmed the first instalment of Banx London. We're going to have to go back and do a second, because what became very apparent when we spent those 2 days in London is there is so many different park lakes, canals, rivers, tidal rivers to fish. And I've even spoke to some of you guys today, one of the most common questions I get asked is, can you tell me some urban places to go fishing? Mate, where do I start? Where do I start? There is literally every town or city or even village is going to have some sort of pond or stream or lake. And if any of you guys want to experience it, just go out there and look. Just go out there with your glasses on when the weather's a little bit milder, wander around and just see if you can find any carp in these built-up urban environments. A lot of the time they're going to be neglected. There's not going to be anyone else fishing for them, and there'll be some special fish to catch, that's for sure. Yeah, meeting up with Hatcher on that particular episode was really cool, absolute legend. And finishing it off, catching a couple of fish of Alfie down on the park lake. It was really cool. We're going to go out this year in June, sort of the back end of June, and do another Banx episode, with the dream being, and it is a big dream for me, it's all about dreams, guys, man. If you go fishing and you haven't got a target or a dream, then why are you going, kind of thing? And this next time when we go out to film Banx, the dream is a fish from the Thames. Not from this particular area, because it's a bit too tidal, but somewhere on that River Thames, Alfie and I want to catch, a proper London Thames carp. Banx itself, guys, why do I love it? I kind of touched on it a little bit there. I think one of the reasons is because it's quiet. A lot of people associate with going fishing in these urban places as potentially dangerous or noisy or busy. Yeah, maybe, but I've personally never had any issues whatsoever. And a lot of the places I've fished, a lot of these built-up urban places, in the hours of darkness, they're actually very quiet. Certainly from a point of view of anglers, you never see any. And once it gets sort of 11, 12 o'clock, it becomes very quiet, very peaceful, and I like that. I like it all being lit up and stuff. So I like doing it in those types of environments. I love the people, man. I love the public engagement. I love talking to non-anglers who see these carp on the bank and they're just like, whoa, what is that? I've never seen anything like it. I walk around this lake every day and I've never seen a carp here before. You know, not too long ago, I had a couple of fish out of a very urban bit of river, and I got onto the bank and people were rushing over. Do you know what they said? There was 2 carp on the open mat. This is the God's honest truth. The first people that come in to see me, they're like, oh my God, you've got 2 baby seals. You've got 2 baby seals. Yeah, they're carp, man. Like, they're carp. Like, but these people, you know, if you're not an angler, it's really quite exciting and interesting. And I love engaging with them. I love listening to their stories and finding out what, you know, what they do and what brings them to this particular park. Meeting people along the way, man. I've made some mega friends, you know, from going and fishing these urban environments, anglers and non-anglers, and that's another big buzz for me. You don't tend to get that on a big wild pit. You kind of lock yourself away in a little bush with your camo net, and it's all a bit secret squirrel and antisocial and stuff. And I think that's why I like the urban fishing, because you can chat with people. There's much more of a buzz going on. The views, you know, again, a lot of people would associate fishing somewhere urban as it's horrible, as concrete, it's miserable. Actually, man, I've been to some mega places, man. Places where you kind of just get your rods out and you're just in awe of it, like, wow, what a place, man. Like, it really does take your breath away sometimes. And the fish, you know, there's some special carp to be caught in these places. In some instances, they've not been fished for before, and it's all out there for the taking, guys. Get out there, go for a wander, go and check your local town and city and give it a go. Last weekend, Ollie and I flitted over to Holland on a little urban mission. It will appear in some form of film over the comes probably on Life and Nash. But yeah, we went over to Holland. It was a difficult trip. As I said, it's still early in the year. They've not really woken up properly yet. But we went at it, we tried, we worked hard. This was a cool spot. I tried to position, I don't know if you can see here, there's a few boats along the back now, and I was using a bait boat, and I had to bait boat the rig about 160 yards, 180 yards, and I wanted to fish it in between these boats. Well, that was easier said than done. There was an awful lot of rowers, and they're rowing backwards and forwards, and yeah, anyone ever play that frog game where you got to like leap across the road and try not to get splattered? Well, it's exactly like that. We're running this bait boat out, and I was looking left and right, going, no, stop. We'd have to stop, wait, stop. And eventually we managed to get the bait boat across this river and drop the reeds. We didn't catch any, but as I said earlier, it was exciting. It was really exciting. We only went for 2-3 hours, and it was a good buzz. As well as that, did my usual, went around with that sawn off, stalking, and it was very difficult, guys, man. I found the fish, you know, and that's the hardest part, man, tracking those fish down. Once you find it, the rest is a little bit easier, but finding those fish is usually the challenge. This particular day, I found them, man, for quite good numbers. One particular mirror, 45 pounds, and I reckon I made, in the space of an hour and a half, 2 hours, between 100 and 150 casts at these fish with slow-sinking maggots, casting, and they never spooked, I didn't scare them, they were quite content in themselves, they just didn't want to take my hook bait in, and I kept on persevering. Eventually, it come good and I caught one, and it was a stunning common, but it was very, very difficult to catch. And I was chatting with Ollie about it as we were driving in the van afterwards, and a lot of lads, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys here will have this app. Who's got this on their phone? Fish Cow. Anyone else? Anyone else use this? Less than I thought. I thought more people used it. It was interesting. This particular day when we were in Holland, it was reading 11% chance of catching. I pay no attention to it because my time is so limited. I'm not going to let an app tell me when I should and shouldn't go fishing. The same as I can't even let the weather tell me when I should and shouldn't go fishing. You know, if I get the opportunity to go, I've got to go, whatever the conditions. But I found it quite interesting that on this particular day, the percentage to catch was incredibly low. And I found the fish, I made lots of casts, but they just weren't interested, and there's definitely something in it, you know. I've kind of ignored it up until now, but it's made me take a second think about it and maybe actually start to apply it a little bit into my angling more. As well as that, guys, we've been out and filmed another Urban Banx. It's not going to be called episode 10, it's going to be called Urban Banx Park Lake Special. And again, as part of the KHV award, KHV fundraising, one of the prizes was to come and do a session with me, have it filmed, you know, as part of Urban Banx. And This lad here, Joe, he paid a lot of money and he came out for his first ever urban fishing session, and we flitted around a number of different park lakes. It was brilliant. I had a lovely time. This particular park lake, we sort of focused on everything that park lakes are. So we spent a lot of time talking about what you find on the bank, on the land, you know, the skate parks, the tramps, the kids feeding the birds feeding areas, all of those things, and what you find in the water. So we did some work with regards to watercraft, lightly looking holding areas, etc., etc. I got quite restless. I flicked out a couple of rods, he flicked out a couple of rods, but I can't sit still for very long, man. It weren't happening, and the sun was coming up, and I just felt I needed to have a wander and see if I could track these fish down. So I wandered off to try and find some fish. While I was gone, one of my rods went and Joe caught this lovely common. A very tricky park lake, so it was a massive result to actually get this fish. After that we went to a different park lake called Shoebury Park in Essex, and it went off there, managed to catch 7 fish very, very quickly. Again, fishing little 10mm shotties, flicking them about everywhere in amongst the rushes and stuff, managed to catch some lovely fish. Then we were actually off the surface on bread. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Check it out, guys. We're hoping to launch it around the 1st of May, and yeah, it'll be an Urban Banx Park Lake special. The emphasis of the piece was to try and highlight to people that these park lakes are everywhere, all over the world, and they're all quite similar, and the approach to catch carp from them works really no matter where you are. It doesn't matter whether you're in China, Italy, Newcastle, London. If there's a park lake, odds are on there's going to be some carp in it, and the film's there to try and highlight how you go about catching them. A few more from that particular session. Lovely brace of mirrors early in the morning on little solid bags with key cray in them. Another one on the citrus jollies. Yeah, it was a really good session. Fish like this, man, it's only a small one. It's probably about £7, £6-7, but I was buzzing when I caught it because these marbled scales, and he was mint, you know, really popular little fish. Went and done some float fishing again. Joe, not really experienced that. Managed to catch a couple of fish doing that. The final night we went to another very historic old park in Essex. I didn't manage to catch Nordic Joe, but Ollie, he's good, mate. He does all the work, he gets all the nice long exposures at night, and then he goes and flicks a couple of rods out, and he managed to bag 2 absolutely lovely commons. So it was a great couple of days, and we caught a lot of fish. So yeah, check that video out. It should be out on the 1st of May. Euro Banx, guys, obviously I'm not going to talk too much about it because most of you will have probably seen the film, but it was absolutely brilliant going away last year and doing it all again. For sure, we're going to struggle, man, to beat Bled. Lots of people have come up to me and said, Bled. It was to die for. It literally was a dream trip to go over there, and it all fell into place for us and we caught a lot of fish. But last year's adventure was still equally as good. It was brilliant. You know, Ollie's a legend. He has to take an immense amount of credit for all of this, and this particular fish was wicked, man. We turned up in Paris. It was right at the start of our trip, and first of all we went to the park lake, did a little bit of baiting, and then we went to the River Seine and we tried to find somewhere to fish the night. That was easier said than done. It's proper dodgy, Paris, man. And if anyone's ever been to Paris at night, you'll know what I mean. Lots of big street gangs and stuff. And it took us about 3 hours to find somewhere quiet enough that we felt safe to do a bit of fishing. And yeah, this was the result of it. Ollie flicked the rod out in the edge, a couple of rods out in the edge, and 10 minutes later it's absolutely melted off. I'll tell you the story. Well, this is what happened. It's melted off, and Ollie's picked the rod up and started playing the fish. He's boiling on the surface, like massive balls come up. He's looked at me and gone, it's a catfish. It's definitely a catfish. And there is a lot of catfish in this river. Because he saw he's focused on doing his job, he said, you take the rod, you play it in and stuff, and I'll go and start filming. So he's gone off, set a couple of video cameras up, started filming. I'm playing a catfish, yeah, lovely times, playing a catfish. The next thing, he's popped up on the surface, it's this carp. So give me the rod, and he's grabbed the rod back off me. He's obviously carried on playing his carp, and that stuck in the net, and this was the result. Very, very quick session, in and out, dropped the culture bait in the edge, in the River Seine, and he's gone and bagged a stunner. Paris the next morning was incredible. The park lake was really, really cool. Again, difficult, but once I found the fish, bread bomb, big chunks of bread, they literally were making a beeline to it and coming up and nailing it. The lakes get fish, lads, a lot. You know, I wouldn't say they're massively pressured, but there's French anglers fishing them a great deal. But they're not doing it like this. They're not wandering around with a single rod with glasses on trying to track the fish down. We were there 2-3 hours in the morning, bosh, caught 2 fish very, very quickly. Would I have caught them if I'd have gone and baited with loads of boilies and sound weighted? No, definitely not. You know, it's about adapting to different situations. Yeah, that was one of the best ones we had from there. This spot was really, really cool. Again, we don't go into too much depth in the film about it, but when we turned up here, Ollie immediately said, this is bait, man. We shouldn't fish it. There's loads of mattresses laying around and that, and he's going to be, I bet people are rough sleeping here. So we asked these two Italian lads, and they were like, no, there's no problem. The Italian government, they move all the people, all the homeless people have gone. Now we took their word for it and decided to set up here and start fishing. By about 9 o'clock, some real weird stuff started to happen, like real weird. We were fishing away and we started catching and we started to build the river swim up. We were feeding scalding pellet and stuff, and we were thinking we're going to have a right good hit here. You know, Ollie had caught one, I'd caught one, I'd lost a couple, he'd lost one. We're thinking we're in for a mega session, man. Then, mate, behind us was a load of bamboo. Now this bamboo is about 15, 20 foot tall, and it starts rustling. Now, normally you think it's a fox or a badger, or then it starts talking. And then it's more and more and more. And then the whole bamboo forest is moving, like, and it was like these Ewoks in Star Wars, man. It was a language I've never heard before. Like, me and Ollie are like, what the f is going on here, man? Then they descended, mate. They descended 10, 20, fitting it on. Look, 50, 100. And all these little people come out, man. And I felt so sorry for them. They were refugees from somewhere. They weren't Italians. They'd obviously migrated there from whatever poor part of the world they were living. They'd be begging in the day or street robbing or stuff. But they descended on us, didn't we? And he's got like 20 grand worth of camera equipment. And we're just like, let's get out of here now. Quickly, pack up, go. Jumped in the van and we drove into the centre of Rome there. Got into the centre of Rome. It was a much more quiet spot. It was very, very beautiful. And again, we caught a few fish there as well. Italy was amazing. We were there not much longer than 2.5 days. Bologna, Florence, Italy, and straight back out again. Up into the French Alps. This is another dream destination, guys. It wasn't quite as spectacular as Blair because we just didn't catch the fish we did. But with regards to the setting, it was to die for. There's around 60 to 70 lakes in the French Alps. You can fish it on a rod licence. You basically buy a yearly ticket to fish there. Most of the lakes have got fish over 25 kilos. Lots of the lakes have got fish over 30 kilos. It's an incredible place and well worth, you know, if a few of you get together and fancy going on a bit of a road trip, I'd highly recommend heading down to the French Alps to go and have an adventure yourself. Amsterdam, we ended up there. I'm still yet to catch the canal cart from Amsterdam, but yeah, it was mega and we finished it off with a big party. To finish off, guys, I'm just going to quickly talk to you about the last 2 days, because I've been up here. I started off a little adventure. I went to Newcastle. Anyone from Newcastle? Newcastle? No. Mate, I went to Newcastle. Everyone was lovely. Really, really, really nice people. And I fished a place called Leazy's Park. It's right in front of the football stadium. It wasn't easy. Got up in the morning, had to move 2 or 3 times, again chopping and changing things. But eventually I managed to bag a fish. Max had caught 2 little commons, and I was very, very blessed to catch this stunning mirror. And again, this is another great example, guys. This is an urban, built-up park lake. A lot of people would just be like, no, I ain't fishing there, man, I ain't fishing there. And look at it, it's an absolute stunner. So did that. We then started to head a little bit further down south, stopped off in Leeds, went and fished a few more little park lakes. This is an abandoned lake we found. Some nice fish in there, but I couldn't manage to trip one up. We done a night on the canal. I sat up in someone's front garden. They were literally watching Coronation Street. Good as gold. Just put my brolly up on their front lawn, flipped the rods out, but it didn't quite work out there. None of us caught. I met these guys here. I went to see a project near Huddersfield, I think, West Yorkshire, Huddersfield. Do you know it? Mate, this was amazing. I went to meet these people. They basically created 3 lakes right in the middle of this built-up urban environment, and they're doing an awful amount of teaching of young kids, getting them into the sport. They do a huge amount of, what's the name of it? When you're naughty and you get nicked and you have to go and community service. Community service, they get better people coming down to do community service. In fact, one of the lakes they dug with pure work, community service people. I think it was 6,500 tonnes of soil. They got these lads on community service to dig out with barrows and shovels, move and stuff. 5 minutes. Yeah, it was amazing, man. It was really, really nice to go and see these people. I'm going to go and do some stuff with them later on in the year. I then stopped off at Big Park Lake, 20-acre jolly, found some fish down on the bottom of the wind. I was with a lad called Reese and Mikey. They put us onto the fish and that. And yeah, very quickly managed to catch a couple. This is the back of young Mikey's motor. He's blew me away, man. He's just passed his test. He's got a little Fiat Punto. and he fits all his gear into the boot. He's got a scope bed chair, scope rod, scope rucksack, and I was like, right mate, I've got a massive van, we fill it like, you've got a little punto and you managed to fit everything you need into the back of it. Again, simple tactics guys, little tiny coconut cream, 10ml baits, little sticks with mashed up coconut cream and a little bit of liquidised bread in it, and that was doing the bites. And again, stunning fish from a big park lake where a lot of people tend to ignore. Just quickly, because I'm running out of time now guys, how do I do it? How do I manage to flit around catching these fish? Up until recently, I've always been taught, or always been of the belief, and I'm sure you guys are going to be the same, that the most important thing in fishing is location. Find the fish. I can't disagree with that, but I now believe there's something even more important than that, and that is energy. Energy, focus, determination, motivation, and I'm absolutely convinced on this. When I'm a bit like, yeah, not really feeling it, like not really, you don't catch. The moment you really channel your energy and your focus and stuff, and that doesn't mean drinking loads of Red Bull, that means getting some decent sleep before going on your session and just knowing what you want to achieve. You know, that for me is now the biggest, single most important thing in my angling, being focused, having the drive and the determination. You need that to find him, you know, I can't do that. If I haven't got the energy or the motivation, I'm not going to find him anyway. So the next most important thing is finding them. You need to see them show, you need to see them fizzing, you need to see bubbles, you need to see big black shapes drifting around, track those fish down. I've used this example before, it's worth pointing out again guys, when you're approaching any piece of water, whether that's a river, a lake or a canal, try and imagine it like your house at home. There's certain areas of your house where you're going to spend loads of time, the living room, the bedroom for example, and there'll be other areas where you're going to spend a very, very small amount of time, maybe walking through the hallways, the garage, the toilet. You need to break your water down in the same way. You need to ascertain where those fish are spending a vast majority of their time and write off the areas that they're hardly using. The sooner you can do that, the sooner you can be a lot more productive in your fishing. This is a drone shot taken by Carl Smith. This is a big edge, guys, man. I've just bought one myself and I'm going to start implementing it into my own fishing. Not to make amazing films or stuff like that, but to try and track these carp down. You know, when you're turning up a big pit or stuff, to walk around it properly and try and find fish, it might take a day or half a day, you know. I watched Carl fly this drone for 10 minutes and drop it back down, and that's what he produced for me. I know all the shallow areas, I know where all the weed is. Now, at the time, you can see carp on the screen. It's a big edge, guys, man, and it's something I'm definitely going to implement into my own fishing. Popping that drone up, flying it all over the lake, yeah, all right, they're down in that corner, bring the drone back down, and then I'll wander off there and go fishing. Bait-wise, it is so important, guys. You need a good quality bait, and lots of people are different in their approach. You get some guys that go very, very short sessions like me. You get other guys like Brixie, for example, who love these big, long sessions, and they can catch an awful lot of fish too. So your bait choice is really dictated by the type of angler you are. I don't know if you've seen it, but we have got a book. Please pop over, guys, and get it. We've created this book to try and illustrate the different types of anglers there are out there, and maybe the sort of right bait or baiting approach for you. A lot of the time I'm using white baits, guys, especially in these urban environments. It's obviously a natural thing to do. They're throwing bread in all the time, fish and white bait over the top. There's a snippet from the book. Rigs, again, I don't want to overcomplicate things too much. I'm actually doing a talk in an hour where I'm going to get really, really riggy and show you all the different rigs I do, but a lot of my fishing is chod rig fishing, this little Ronnie rig or swivel rig, low line pop up, and I'm basically casting around and showing fish. I love a solid bag. Zigs, basically my philosophy on rigs is make sure the carp can get the bait in the mouth. That's the most important thing. You can't, you know, I can't jeopardise on a short session using a rig that might have sunk too far into the silt, might have tangled on the cast. You know, I've got to use something I'm 100% confident the moment it goes out in the water, should a carp go anywhere near it, the hook point's clear and, you know, you can get pricked and I can catch it. Great thing with the solid bags is everything's packed inside the bag, it's protected, meaning once it's dissolved, my hook point's perfect, you know, ready for a fish to pick it up. Zigs, as I said. And that brings me to the end, guys.